Hi everybody, Tex-Mex here. Thanks for joining me for another video. Today I'm going to do a review of the Oneleaf Commander NV400. It is a digital day-night vision scope. Now, Oneleaf contacted me by email asking me if I'd review their scope. They actually offered me a partnership. I was sort of shocked because I'm a tiny channel, and I had to politely decline. For personal reasons, I've decided not to monetize my channel at this time. And not that I have anything against people that do. I hope they make as much money as possible. And it was very kind of Oneleaf to offer me a partnership, but at this point, I really don't want to have any partnerships with any products. If I'm going to review something, it's going to be something I'm doing independently where I have no financial stake in the product. And in this case, once again, I have no financial stake in this product. I'm not being paid for this review. I'm not going to make any money if you buy this product or if you don't. But that being said, I was interested in looking at this scope because I've only dipped my toes into night vision. I had a pair of binoculars. Well, I say binoculars, it had no magnification. It was just night vision binoculars that someone gave my father. I mean, these things are 20 plus years old, I think older than that. So they're really, really old. A terribly outdated technology that, worked okay for things close up. And then a handful of years ago, my brother-in-law for Christmas gave me a little night vision monocular that was pretty decent, and it had a little bit of magnification, and he gave it to me with an infrared flashlight. And, it was okay. I could see it, anywhere between 20 and 50 yards, you could see pretty well. Beyond that, it started getting a little grainy, but it was still pretty neat to use at night because when I am out on the property that I have access to, it's surrounded by hills. There aren't any big cities close by. So at night, if there is no moon, it is pitch black. It gets very, very dark, which is wonderful for gazing at the stars and fun for testing out night vision equipment. So when Oneleaf asked me if I would review their night vision scope here, I was excited because I'd like to see how well these things work. I've never used one on an actual firearm, and I kind of wanted to see where the modern technology has gotten as far as these scopes and their practicality for use in nighttime hunting, such as hunting for hogs. Now, this particular Commander NV400, it's the Eagle. It's got a digital zoom that goes between 2 power and 26 power. There is another model that goes anywhere between 4 power and up to 52 power in magnification. I wanted the less magnification just because I figured that the lower magnification may actually be a higher quality. And also in the areas where I'm hunting, I'm not going to be taking shots really much past. I mean, the longest shot I'd probably take would be anywhere between 200 and 250 yards, and 26 power magnification, assuming that this optic gives you a clear enough sight picture at that magnification, is certainly more than sufficient to get a shot off anywhere between those distances. Now, the scope also has some other capabilities that I want to talk about that for someone like me that makes videos is rather neat, which is that it's also a video recorder. It has a mini SD card in there, and it can record in video quality up to 4K 120 frames per second. Now, I would most likely set it at less than that, but if you want something that you're going to slow down and want a little more quality when you're doing some slow motion, 120 frames per second is great. But for my purposes, I think anywhere between 30 and 60 frames is probably sufficient. But that is the resolution of the video that it will take when you are using. Now, this model also comes with an illuminator, with a mount. The illuminator is basically an infrared flashlight. I'm pretty certain that's what it is. But you can connect it to the scope, and it has a function that allows it to narrow its beam. So if you're trying to illuminate something further down range, then you'll want to narrow that beam to get as much power downrange as possible. Now, another thing this product comes with is a rangefinder. It's an LRF, which I'm pretty certain stands for laser rangefinder. I think it's also an infrared laser, so you can see it when using the night vision capabilities. And according to the paperwork, it says that it can measure distance anywhere between 5 and 1,100 yards, so it can measure pretty far out. Once again, probably much further than I will need for my purposes, but it's nice to know that it has that capability. Now let's go ahead and unbox this just so we can see everything that comes in the box when you purchase this Commander NV400. Now here we are with everything unboxed. When I did unbox it, I found a little note in there that says, let's see here. Now, real quick, I've got 2 cameras set up here. I've got camera 1 and camera 2. Now that's production value, folks. 2 cameras, so you get 2 different viewpoints. Camera 1, camera 2. Camera 1, camera 2. And the reason I put camera 2 is because this one has a little more of not magnification. It has the ability to focus at closer distances, so I thought I might need it. And this is one of those situations where I will need it. Let me see if I can do this here. I think this is how, let me see here. So if you see here, pretty sure you can read that. It's a customer service, and it basically says this product has 2-year warranty, and they have an email address on there in case you need to take advantage of that warranty. So that's good to know. And as far as what the box comes with, and just so you know, I had already taken this out. This is the rangefinder connected to the scope. The rangefinder was already connected. They show you how to connect it in case you want to disconnect it, but it came ready to go. And I charged it because the scope has 2 batteries in it. It has one internal battery that you cannot take out. And to charge it, there are some charging ports on this side here. You unscrew this cap, and you can see not only do you have the charging ports, you have a video out, and this little rubber cover here covers up the micro SD card. It also has the reset button there in case that you need to reset it for one reason or another. So I've already charged up the internal battery. And then not only that, there is an external battery that you put in here, and I charged it as well. It came with 2 different cap lengths because there are 2 different battery lengths. This is the shorter battery. So depending on which battery you get for your particular scope, there are 2 different caps provided. Here, let me push this one in. I think this has a little O-ring in there to make sure it's nice and watertight. So there we go. The taller cap is this one here. And it even tells you which batteries. This is for the 65mm battery. I don't know if you can see that there, versus the 50mm battery. And basically, this was telling you to remove the insulating sheet before using the device. Well, you know, the battery came inside, but had the insulating sheet. That being said, when I first got this product, I went ahead and charged the battery inside. I took that battery out and charged it as well. It comes with this charger here that can charge both sizes of battery, because it has this little lever here that can expand depending on what size battery you put in there. Now the scope also comes with eye cups. It comes with 2 different sizes, a 65mm and a 55mm eye cup. I think you use the one depending on what magnification you have. I believe for this one I'll be using the shorter eye cup. And you don't have to use the eye cup, but it is something that it comes with. It actually comes with its own scope rings ready to go. Now they're attached to each other because they have a rail on top, so you can add other accessories. But that's nice that it has its own scope rings. Here is the illuminator. It comes with a micro SD card. The SD card it comes with is a 64GB, but you can replace it or use a mini SD card up to 256GB, and that's pretty large. As someone who regularly videos on SD cards, on mini SD cards, on GoPros and other things, 256GB will give you a lot of recording time, even at the highest setting of the 4K 120 frames per second. Now it comes with a flip open cap that was already installed, and it's on there, so you can use that. If you're using it during the daytime, they advise you to keep the cap on. They even have this sun shield on there in case you're in direct sunlight or very heavy sunlight. Let's see if I could screw it in there. There you go. So you can even use that with that attached if you're in heavy sunlight and trying to use this during the day. It comes with an Allen wrench, Allen wrench, and some other wrenches here. I'm pretty certain that's for mounting the scope. It comes with charging wires. It comes with the wire if you want to connect it directly to play the video, because you don't have to download the video from this to play it. You can actually play it directly from the scope, and this makes it from mini HDMI. Or is this HDMI, or is it? Yeah, it is. It's HDMI. From mini HDMI to HDMI, so you can play it directly on your TV or other device if you want to. And then a lot of extra little spare O-rings here. I assume that's just to keep everything watertight. And it does have a little cap here in the back to protect it. And that's everything that comes in the box, other than instruction manuals and a little lens cloth. So that is everything that comes in the box. So you're basically ready to go the moment you get this. There's 2 things you need to do though when you first get it, if you do buy this product, is charge the batteries, and then secondly, check to see if there's a firmware update. And it's very easy to do that. You just go to their site, and if there is a firmware update for your particular scope, you download it onto that mini SD card, and then put the mini SD card into the scope. And when you load it up, it'll update immediately from that mini SD card. So it's a relatively easy way to update the firm software. Now, when I first got it as well, some of the stuff I did was originally I had to, well, you know, because this is a digital scope. It does have lenses on it, but the lenses are to help focus it in two respects. Because first there's the diopter in the back, and you use that to focus the screen, the small screen that's inside the scope, to make sure you can see it well. And you can turn it right or left depending on whether you have hyperopia or myopia, but you just left and right to get that diopter focused for your particular eye. And then once that's focused, you can use the objective focusing to focus on the target that you are trying to look at once you have it set up in the scope. And you, not only that, well, obviously you zoom in and out using this little lever here. This is actually a menu lever, so it'll help you do quite a few different functions on this scope. But once you do that, you're able to basically focus it on your target. Now, the other thing is that this scope comes with different reticles. So you have to pick which reticle you like. And I'll put them up on the screen now. Luckily, I was able to find a PDF version of the instruction manuals, which shows a lot of the stuff. So here are the different reticles. There are some simple ones and some more complicated, some that have ballistics figures on there. I am not going to mess with those. I'm going to go with one of the more simplified ones because that's what I'm accustomed to and that's what I like to use. Now, once you get this mounted as well, what you do is you align the laser rangefinder with your reticle. That way that you are taking the distance of the actual target that you are aiming at. And because this scope has this laser rangefinder as part of it, it actually has a ballistics calculator within its software, which is really neat. I haven't used it. It's going to be a while before I figure that out because you have to put in all the ballistic parameters for the particular ammunition that you are using. But it has the ability to do that in the settings. You can put in for different types of ammunition. So you don't have to have the scope just on one type of ammunition alone. See, in this case, you can see I have an AR-15 set up here. This is the rifle that I plan to put this scope on. As I said earlier, if I'm going to use this, it's most likely going to be used for hunting hogs at night. And this is the type of rifle that I would be doing that with. This is a Palmetto State Armory rifle. It's got a 16-inch stainless steel upper. It's a 1-in-7 twist with a Wylde chamber. I mean, it'll shoot 55 grain bullets fine, but I prefer 62 or heavier, especially if I'm shooting at hogs. And it's a great accurate setup for shooting really well past 200 yards. But like I said, in my circumstances, most of my shots are going to be anywhere between 50 and really 150 yards. I wouldn't really be shooting much more past that. There's a possibility, so I'm set up for it, but in all reality, that's the distance that I'll be mostly taking my shots at. Now, one of the things about the ballistic calculator, and I'll try to put up a picture of that here now. Once you have that set up, well, and like I said, you can put different types of ammunition in. So it'll have settings where you can put the ballistic parameters for 3 or 4 different types of bullets. Because with an AR-15, I could have, even if it's 62 grain, I could have a boat tail, non-boat tail. I could be shooting 55, 62, 70 plus grain ammunition out of this. And whatever ammunition I'm going to use, I can already have those parameters downloaded into my scope. Go ahead and go into the settings and choose that particular ammunition. And then with the laser rangefinder, once you put your reticle on the target you want to shoot at, it will actually give you an extra little indicator where you are going to hit on your reticle. So you can use that indicator to aim and have your ammunition on target regardless of range, as long as you're able to take a good measurement with the laser rangefinder. Now that's just really, really neat. I'm old school. I've been using just optical scopes for all of my life. And a lot of science fiction, you kind of saw these types of scopes that would tell you where to shoot or how to shoot. It seems like we're getting there. And one thing is that this is a relatively inexpensive scope. Now I say that, it's around $500. And I'm not saying that's inexpensive, but I buy relatively good scopes for all my rifles. I tend to be a loopholed guy. I have bought other brands. I mean, if I had enough money to be buying Zeiss and Swarovski scopes, I probably would. But I'm usually putting a scope on a rifle that's at least as expensive as the rifle that I'm buying, and sometimes even more, because having a good rifle that shoots a minute of angle or better is great. But if you don't have good optics on it, then you're not going to get the capabilities of your rifle in practical use. And in this case, this is probably altogether a little more expensive than this rifle. That's what I put. No, you know what? It's about the same price. So like I say, the scope and this rifle are probably equivalent in value as far as how much I paid for them. And before I forget, so it has a gyroscope in here. In that respect, I think it also has a compass. But the gyroscope's important because this scope can tell you two things. And it'll be on the sides of your reticle. And I'll show a picture of that now. And it'll show a roll angles to see, you know, basically of your rolling left or right. And a pitch angle, so it's up and down. And I believe that that is also taken in consideration when the ballistics calculator is deciding where your point of aim should be depending on the ammunition that you have entered the information into the computer for this scope. So lots of stuff. I mean, the scope really has tons of capabilities. This may be sort of the wave of the future. With this sort of capabilities, I could see a lot of standard scopes that aren't necessarily night vision scopes starting to have some of these options offered on them. I just never thought there'd be a time that they'd be able to have a scope at this price point, I should say, that has a capacity to not only be able to range find for you, videotape while you're shooting, and based on the range, pitch, roll. Now, I don't think it takes wind into consideration. It might. I have to look into that. There's so much involved here. There may be a little or some way to program a wind effect on the ballistics, but where your reticle will actually show you where you will be hitting. So it'll be a little while before I can go out and shooting at night. So there will be a part 2 to this video where I'll actually test it by doing some daytime shooting. I'll have to do some daytime shooting to actually sight this sucker in. And then this has 3 modes. It has day mode, starlight, and then nighttime. So the starlight, I'm pretty sure, is just for low light, and then the nighttime for complete darkness, where you can be using the illuminator to help you see in the dark. So I'm going to try to sight it in daylight, maybe do some starlight shooting, and then nighttime shooting at different distances, see how well the laser rangefinder works, and see how accurate it is. Now, the only complaint I have at this point is the resolution of the monitor, because although this will record or take pictures and many megapixels and record up to 4K, the resolution of the actual monitor that you're looking at is 1280 by 960. So the display resolution isn't great. It's not bad. It's certainly sufficient for shooting, but I think as you get into distance, it's going to be a little worse. Now, like I said, what you're recording is going to come out in 4K, but what you can see through the actual optic is going to have a max resolution of 1280 by 960. Now, real quick, I'm going to start mounting this scope. While I do here, I'm going to show some of the specifications for the Commander NV400, just so you have that information for your review. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to get this mounted. So at last, I've got it mounted on the rifle. The only issue really was that the scope was heavy to the left due to the laser rangefinder, but that didn't cause too much issues. I always tighten the rings just slightly, just enough to keep the scope from moving on its own, and then go ahead and level it. Then I finish tightening it with the torque wrench, and we're ready to go. The only other issue I think I might encounter is it's possible I have the scope mounted too far back. It may only be because I have the stock collapsed. I mean, obviously the stock's gonna go out, but that I really won't know until I've shouldered it. basically the way I normally shoulder a rifle when I'm ready to shoot. Look through it and see if it's about the right distance from my eye. Luckily, I do have that rubber eye cap to let me know whether or not I'm getting too close to the scope or not. And other than that, we are good to go. So stay tuned for part 2. Hopefully within the next few weeks, I'll be able to head out to the property. But until then, as always, thanks for watching. Hope you all are doing well, and I'll see you in the next video.